Hello and welcome to a two-part special series of GRI Club presents India, an emerging real estate investment destination. A unique business networking platform gathering the world's leading real estate investors, developers and lenders to build relationships and strengthen their global network. We spoke to the chairman of GRI Club, Henry Ulster, to gain more insights into the club's overarching mission. Now, Henry, the GRI Club is an international industry body meant for seasoned real estate professionals. What is it designed to achieve?
The GRI is a club. It's a club of a very small group of people. The aim of the GRI is to create a global community of people that relate to each other, that are connected with each other, that feel comfortable, even across borders, picking up the phone and discussing opportunities together. It is different from most other organizations that bring together meetings of people, conferences and what have you. It is different in that, for the most part, we don't have speakers, we don't have panelists, we don't have technology. What we have typically at the GRI is a group of people that sits together in a room, in a circle, with no podium, no microphone, no PowerPoint, pretty much like people would get together in a marketplace in the good old times and just have a conversation. And at the end of that conversation, which is typically about a real estate subject, but it could be about anything. At the end of the conversation, people get to know one another. They get to develop chemistry, or not to develop. They get to decide, I like this guy, or I don't like this guy. He's doing something that is of interest to me, or maybe he's not. And by doing that, it's a discovery process. It's a discovery where people get to know other people, see whether indeed they are the kinds of people that are worth knowing better. And if indeed they are the kinds of people that are worth knowing better, after having a conversation with them in a group for an hour and 15 minutes, it's very easy rather, to walk up to them and say, hey, I enjoyed your comments, let's have coffee together. The ice has been broken, people are very comfortable, they're not going to say, who are you, I've never met you before. And the reason for all that is that the real estate industry is a very fragmented industry. People go from project to project, from investment to investment. And for each of these investments, they need to put together a coalition of architects, builders, lenders, investors, a whole group of people to undertake this investment together. And therefore, knowing who the right people are, what the right people are for any specific situation, is very worthwhile information. And even more worthwhile is having a personal connection with them. And if one builds a whole Bible of personal connections over time by attending such discussions, it gives people an opportunity to do a lot more than if they were simply on their own. It gives them access to capital. If they are investors, it gives them access to product. It gives them access to knowledge, to expertise from people that they feel comfortable with. And it's that feeling of comfort, I think, that is the most important thing about the GRI, is developing personal connections, friendships, a sense of family, I would almost say, between people within the same region, within the same country, and indeed across the world. And I think the reason why the GRI has appealed to so many groups of people and has grown so rapidly across the world is because it is a necessity that simply does not exist in the marketplace, and that a lot of senior people respond to very intuitively.
Now, sir, in these GRI Club conversations, what are some of the most surprising takeaways that have emerged around the Indian real estate landscape?
Well, I think India always surprises, and I think what surprises is that Indians are extraordinarily optimistic people, and even in difficult circumstances, and some of the years of the last 20 years have not necessarily all been terrific, Indians somehow manage to look beyond the difficulty of the moment and to hope and to strive for better circumstances. And sometimes these things create their own dynamic. If people are optimistic in time, and therefore they make decisions, they make investment decisions, they spend money. In time, the markets indeed improve and sort of prove them right. It's sort of, the proof is in the pudding, if you wish.
Absolutely.
But I think the thing about Indians is that no matter what the circumstances are, there's a huge group of extremely global people, extremely well-educated people that know what they're talking about, and extremely optimistic. I think that is probably the one thing that stands out from between India and the rest of the world. Not to say the rest of the world is pessimistic, but it stands out in India as truly an Indian quality.
Thank you so much for your time. We caught up with the Chairman and Joint Managing Director of Credberg, Pavan Swami, and Joint Managing Director, Adil Engineer, to understand their perspective on capital markets and how best to assess market sentiment. Now, Adil, how challenging is it to raise capital in the current market climate?
So the current environment, if you're looking at capital raising, divided into two parts. One is predominantly for capital providers, how difficult it is for them to raise capital. And the other side, developers, how difficult it is for them to raise capital for their projects.
Sure.
At the same time, for the right kind of project, with the right kind of development partner, capital still is available.
Well, how would you describe buyer sentiment versus builder sentiment then, if we were to look at this domestically and not view in on international investor appetite?
For investors, effectively domestically in India, they still seem to focus on credit compared to international investors who are saying, we want to buy yield assets. So that's the clear differentiation that we are seeing.
But I think eventually the India story is going to play out over the next 12 to 24 months. I think the insatiable demand for housing in India is going to continue to play out. But again, as long as product is made for the people who are buying, that product will always sell.
In today's fast-evolving real estate market, it is important to understand the demand-supply dynamics. We interacted with the CEO of Motilal Oswal Real Estate, Sharad Mittal, to understand his views on the future outlook of the domestic real estate market. Now, Sharad, how would you describe the current demand-supply dynamics in the domestic real estate sector?
So Pooja, residential real estate has been going through a challenging phase for last 4 odd years. It started with demonetization, GST, and then the RERA, and the last bit has been happened through the liquidity crisis that we've been facing for last 1 year. As far as the demand supply is concerned, I think that's less of a worry for me. The challenges are more structural in nature. Over a period of time, the regulatory changes and the liquidity situation will force the sector towards a consolidation.
So thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you, Pooja.
And for joining us.
Thank you, Pooja.
After our conversation with Sharad Mittal, we spoke with Hardeep Sachadeva, partner of AZB & Partners, to understand his take on the government's role in India's infrastructural growth story. Hardeep, what more would you like to see from the government in terms of giving our country's badly beaten real estate sector a much needed infrastructural push?
We need to have a complete paradigm shift from allowing just foreign direct investment or limited foreign non-convertible debentures or FPIs to invest into India, to allow any foreign company to give debt or a loan to any real estate company in India. The need of the hour today is to let the debt market be accessible by any foreign company for any real estate developer in India here. Today, if you look around, these developers have raised debt from the Indian banks or from Indian NBFCs. There is no policy in place today for a foreign company to take over these debts or to get these debts be given by the foreign companies here. We need to have the policy in place.
Welcome back to a special series of GRI Club Presents India, an emerging real estate investment destination. To do a deeper dive on how investors view non-performing loans, we spoke with the co-founders and managing partners of Evervantage, Sudhanshu Kejriwal and Karthik Krishna.
Sudhanshu, how would you describe current investor interest in non-performing loans or distressed real estate assets?
So actually, two different questions, so I'll answer it differently. When it comes to non-performing loans, I think there was always an appetite. That appetite is growing over a period of time, especially since September last year, since the NBFC crisis has happened. We've got stress funds which are coming up. We've got special situation groups and special situation funds which are coming up across the country. In fact, just last couple of quarters, two new, I would say, fundraisers have happened, especially for non-performing loans and distressed loans. And so I see, there is demand happening. How this materializes into real takeover of some of these loans is still to be seen. But yes, there is demand happening out there. When it comes to distressed assets, it totally depends upon what the distress is. Okay, not every distressed asset can be acquired by somebody. So if you've got a distress when it comes to, you've got a title issue, less takers. If you've got a distress in an asset which is under construction due to RERA and NCLT issues, you'll not have many takers wanting to take over somebody else's RERA issues. But when it comes to any kind of distress in assets where it is land related without any construction, there is a huge demand out there. Out there, we have seen a few transactions, we've actually done a few transactions in that space, where there are enough takers today who are backed by funds looking for that correct asset which they can get at a good price to challenging markets. So it's good to have land at a slightly discounted price.
I guess the valuations is all the meat in the game, and it's most important that the assets get sold at the right value, because eventually someone's going to buy this at distressed value, is going to then turn this around. We've been privy to such acquisitions in the last year and a half in various markets like Pune, Bangalore, Mumbai, where developers have bought these assets and we're helping them turn them around. So I guess distress at a particular valuation is very interesting, and purely at land stage rather than assets which are built, which go through a different route like NCLT. I think so. Valuation is the number one game here.
To uncover emerging, unique business models in the real estate market, we spoke to the Executive Director of GRI Corporation, Abhinav Reddy. Here are the highlights.
As one of Hyderabad's largest office park developers, the GAR Group seems to operate on this build, own, operate and manage model. What are the advantages of such a model in today's market climate?
So I would say the primary thing is stability. This sort of business model is not really a business, it's more of an asset creation model. So most of the assets we own have been in our portfolio for 20-25 years, and the assets we build today also we envisage to have them across the next few decades.
Sure.
This is more of a unique proposition when it comes to developers in India. There are very few people who do this in India. A few of them I can think of is maybe Kera Asia Corp in Bombay or Bagmane in Bangalore. Most developers who are into office either do strata sale or have equity partners. So that's one of the main advantages, like I said, would be stability and a long-term outlook towards all our assets. So another big advantage that this gives us in terms of our tenants, our large tenants who are MNCs from all over the globe get a lot of comfort when they have a single landlord they have to deal with, and throughout the tenure of the lease they don't have to talk to anybody else. So this has enabled us and a few other unique real estate players to retain this core set of IT companies who lease a lot of space from us. In the long run, this turns out to be a big advantage because they are the ones who lend stability to your portfolio. There's not a lot of churn, unlike smaller retail segments. It's good. I would say it's a slow and steady business. So in the boom cycles we miss out, but in the down cycles we're the ones who are comfortable.
And do you believe that local players have an advantage over global players in the real estate market when it comes to micro market selection in particular?
Definitely. See, nobody can argue with the fact that real estate is a very domain specific industry. All the players across the globe are strong in their home market.
Sure.
So in India, for example, it's DLF and etc. In Delhi, it's Lodha, etc. In Bombay, it's Embassy RMZ in Bangalore. And although they all have presence in other cities, the main strength comes from their core city. So I would say yes, it is a very local specific market. And there are certain advantages also that you get. For example, we being a Hyderabad-based group, a lot of our land banks is historical. So we have a huge advantage when it comes to putting out product in the market in terms of speed, timing, efficiency. So this is not something that an international player or a fund will have, because it's just not possible to have in multiple cities across the globe. It's because the founders are born and brought up in one city, they know the environment, they know everything around them. So it's a given. It's a given.
Over the years, the concept of sustainable living has gained strong momentum in the real estate market. To gain more insights, we caught up with the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Tata Realty, Sanjay Dutt.
Sustainable living models. It's become a buzzword of sorts in the real estate sector. Help us understand what it constitutes by breaking it down in layman terms.
I believe sustainable living is all about being very sensitive to the environment. It has to make a meaningful impact around the environment that you live in and breathe in. For example, if you're in an office environment, you basically want to harness the productivity of the employee.
Sure.
Just the way you're at home, you want to make sure that you give environment to your children which actually encourages productivity, encourages good living, wellness, and all those factors which make a difference to your life. So it has to have some meaningful impact in your life and the environment that you live in.
And sir, how does Tata Realty's sustainable development strategy vary in the urban metros versus the most remote corridors of this country, be it our tier 2 or tier 3 localities?
At Tata Realty and Infrastructure Limited, we believe sustainability is our DNA, and it goes with the values of the group. So we always are sensitive to the environment that we work in, invest in, and we do business in. And I think it's very important, because if you are not sensitive to the environment, then there's some lack of citizen ownership that we feel that we are lacking. So if you want to be a good corporate citizen, it basically stems from the fact whether you are sensitive to the environment or not. And therefore we believe all our developments in real estate are green, sustainable developments, and not just beyond energy or beyond whether we are polluting the environment or not. It's all about how can we really make a meaningful difference to the people that we're servicing. So it's not just real estate, it's the experience, the purpose of what people are taking real estate for, and therefore servicing their needs.
Global interest in the Indian hospitality sector has certainly evolved. Our conversation with Vivek Chandy, Joint Managing Director, Jay Sagar Associates, touched on the future outlook with respect to this subsector of the market.
India's hospitality sector, sir, is one of our crown jewels. So that said, do you believe there's renewed interest in the hospitality sector in this country from investors located abroad?
I think there's continued interest, but I'm not very sure that the interest is in the ultra deluxe sector. I think in the 5-star sector and the 4-star sector, there's a lot of interest. And like I was mentioning, there are three chains which actually reached out to me from Europe last week and who said that they were interested in entering into India.
And so you manage so many US-based REITs who are essentially looking to enter and exit from the Indian market, and they're looking to you for advice and guidance on the same. How would you describe current investor appetite in this country with respect to the domestic real estate sector, whether it be residential or commercial?
With regard to the investors, a couple of REITs and other private equity investors, there is significant interest in the commercial space, not so much in the residential space. And I'm quite confident that in the next couple of years, some of the private equity funds will, accumulate a significant amount of commercial real estate and then throw it into a REIT, which they will hopefully list in India.
Tomorrow we bring you more experts from the real estate industry to share their insights on technology's role in the real estate landscape and what the future holds. Stay tuned.
More of a sustainability and the technology point of view.